Da 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 da.
Oh no, that's actually over the top.
I know.
I quite like that start though. It's going to be a good podcast, folks.
Hello.
Hello.
No, I was going to do like a whole hello and welcome to the Across the NFL podcast.
Are we going for like 3 a.m. drive time vibes?
Hold on, we have to do that again because I said Across the NFL.
Oh, for fuck's sake. What's our podcast called?
Across the Pond.
What's our podcast called?
Across the Pond.
What's the podcast called?
Across the Pond NFL, technically.
They might sue us for that.
Hello, and welcome to Across the Pond with me, Alex.
And me, Will. Are we going for some sort of like sexy drive time 3 a.m. sort of thing? Because my voice is ruined.
I was just doing that's my podcast voice.
Oh, okay. Well, you've never done it before.
Oh, no.
Oh, I liked it though.
Whenever I'm on podcast, I speak like this.
Since when? You normally like yell at the mic.
No, this is how I talk.
Okay. Well, how are you this week?
I'm good. We had a good... No, I can't do this anymore. We had a great week. We went and...
I thought you meant life then. You were just like some sort of existential crisis on air.
No.
I'm here for you if you need.
Thank you. That's very good to know.
Good.
We had a great week. We met a new friend.
We did. We officially... Well, actually, we already have a friend because Mark's friend of the podcast. Mark Chant's friend of the podcast. But we've got like a... actual live interview, in-person friend, a friend that we know, you know, their face and everything. It's brilliant.
This is Chris Bartlett Walford, and we met him at the Barrow Boy and Banker pub in London Bridge, and we shared a pint and some stories. We spoke for like nearly 3 hours, but we managed to put together a sort of 30-minute interview, which is out at the moment as a podcast episode.
Yeah. We pretended like podcast. We knew what we were talking about because he does know what he's talking about, and I think we held our own.
Yeah. He's the global ambassador for the Jags, so he went over there 2 weeks ago to watch a game, and then this week he was over here for the London game, of course, and we were talking to him about the differences between over there and over here, and rather than tell you about it, why don't we hear it from him?
I actually thought, leading up to it and the actual tailgate stuff aside, I thought the whole atmosphere was great. I thought it was actually organised better than most of the Wembley games have been organised. Like logistically, I thought everything was much clearer, and I thought that's actually akin to how the Americans do it. Like if you need to go to this seat, go this way. Simple things like that I was actually really impressed with yesterday. Inside the stadium, why do you have Texans artwork and Texans promotional videos when it is a home game? And I only appreciated how much of a punch in the face that is to the Jacksonville fans, or any of the home team fans. I'm talking about it's a Raiders home game, a Rams home game, Bengals, whatever. Why are you playing promo and like a video and hype stuff for the away team if it is a home game? That's not how it works. You wouldn't go to Chelsea and watch an Arsenal promo video saying, please cheer on Arsenal. It just wouldn't happen. So why was that a thing? And I don't think I've noticed that being such a thing until yesterday. So whether it was yesterday and I just can't remember it before, or whether it never happened before, I don't know. But I was a bit taken aback by that.
So that's Chris. You can find him on Twitter at CoBartlett, C-O Bartlett. And yeah, follow him. He's a good follow.
Yeah, it was really good fun. I was on my best behaviour, I think. You know, had to pretend like I'm not naughty and cracking jokes and talking rubbish all the time. And we definitely have to get him back on. Because we were, you know, we were vibing. Loved it.
We were. There was so much that we spoke about that we couldn't get into the podcast. But one thing that we did do was ask him, like, our favourite question, which is, if you could create a London franchise, which one would you do? And he did the same as me.
Yeah, you must be feeling pretty smug, because you called this about 5 weeks ago.
Yep.
Which I'm actually going to put back out on Twitter. Well, I'm not, because John does all the Twitter, doesn't he?
Yes,
Famous
John will do it.
Yes, he's very well, if anyone wanted to know. But I'm going to put that back out on Twitter, because I think people need to know that you were well ahead of the curve.
Which is that we both predicted that the Chargers should be the team because of the oversaturated market in LA. And then today, an article... yesterday.
Yes, we recorded the interview on Monday. The article dropped on Tuesday.
And the article in The Athletic, which is a very reputable source of sporting news, an article came out by a certain Vincent Bonsignore.
Lovely pronunciation there.
Yeah, it might be Bonsignore. I don't know.
Oh, I like that as well.
And he wrote that the Chargers could be... Let me actually quote a small segment here, which he said that The Athletic has learned through NFL sources that the possibility of the Chargers moving to London has been broached among league personnel.
I find this
You have some thoughts on this.
It's a little bit... Sorry, my voice is all over the place. But I find this quite frustrating because from a source like The Athletic... I don't want to bash The Athletic too much, but it's a subscription service, and I just feel that this article is quite clickbaity. It's obviously had the effect that it was looking for. He's got everybody talking, loads and loads of reaction. He's actually been very good on his Twitter, sort of replying to everyone's what's the word?
Tweets?
No.
Concerns?
Concerns.
Feedback?
Excuse me. His concerns.
Trolling?
Just kind of answering back to what he said in his article. But I do find it a little bit clickbaity, especially as the Chargers owner, remind me of his name, is it Spanos? It is Spanos. That's, it's close enough.
Dean Spanos.
Yeah, he said it's total fucking bullshit, basically. And he said it twice just to make sure everyone got the point. And there's no way...
Those were his actual words.
He said, we're not going to London. We're not going anywhere. We're playing in Los Angeles. This is our home. This is where I'm planning to be for a long fucking time. Period. So, clearly, there were some cross wires here. There's some lying going on. I don't know, but I feel like the Chargers are just moving. It's so unlikely that they're just going to...
They're going into a $4.5 billion stadium.
Yeah, it's so unlikely they're not even going to give that a shot for a season. Like, the whole thing just seemed quite clickbaity and quite frustrating. But there still is a lot of hype, especially with the London games finishing. I think every year people assess the situation of the NFL in London and in the UK in general. And there is a lot of hype around getting a London team here and whether it's going to work. And obviously with the interview with Chris yesterday, we talked all about that. Twitter's been going mad. Loads of podcasts are talking about whether a London game is going to work. And I've been having a little bit of a think about it and what we were saying with Chris and kind of what I've been saying about it all. And I do think there is a danger of kind of what I've been saying of coming across maybe like a little bit spoiled as an NFL fan, because don't get me wrong, the NFL UK are doing a hell of a lot right.
Yeah, we love them.
Yeah, we've got 4 games a season, and I kind of was thinking all the Premier League fans in America, they barely get anything. I think last year they got a ridiculous
pre-season.
Well, no, it was like an end of season. Chelsea went to play Was it Man City? No, it wasn't.
There was this little pre-season competition with like 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah, they do the International Championship Cup, whatever it's called, friendly thing every season. But also in between the end of the season and the Europa League final last year, Chelsea flew over to America to play this ridiculous, I can't remember the team that they were playing, play this ridiculous game that they clearly weren't interested in because they had a Europa League final coming up. So they get these rubbish pre-season games which mean absolutely nothing, and they only get one of them a year. And the spread of like kind of going all across America as well, it's very difficult for fans all over the country to get to these games because obviously the UK is quite small, so getting to London, while it is difficult for some, it is manageable if you really, really want to go. So obviously there's a lot that the NFL UK are doing right. Just going yesterday, I went to the Chelsea-Ajax game yesterday, which was insane, by the way.
4-4 draw, wow.
Yeah, JJ Watt was tweeting about it.
Hey.
So he must be a Chelsea fan. We love you, JJ. But I was there, and there were no Ajax fans there yesterday because they were banned due to something that happened in the Valencia game. So there was a bit of a strange atmosphere, but it did highlight to me a lot of the issues with the NFL UK games if they want to make it a consistent thing, and let's say they come over and do 8 games a season if we have a proper team. For example, I bought a pie and a Coke yesterday for £8. Beer at Chelsea is £5, and if you get in the express lane thing, you can get a pint for £4.20. So it's prices that I mean, that is still expensive, but we're in London, so they're going to be expensive. But it's prices that fans can afford on a regular basis, and they're not completely bulking out. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, as I say, there are a lot of complaints about prices in the Premier League, but when you compare it to something like the NFL, they're still, especially, well, I don't know about the Tottenham games because I haven't been, but the Wembley games are still charging like it's a novelty event. And while what they've done is amazing, they're still treating the NFL UK games as if they're in their first year. And as if this is all one big novelty and we get these 4 games and nobody's ever seen it before. The fan base has had this for 10 years and it's matured, and it wants an authentic experience, and it also wants an experience where a fan can regularly get behind these games, which I think, number one, they're being priced out of doing.
Yeah. And
number two, the way that they handle the sort of supporter experience during the day, like Chris was saying, for the Jags fans.
With tailgating.
Yeah, and putting up Texans imagery. I mean, like yesterday, there were no Ajax fans, as I say, in the crowd. Some of them snuck into the back. And when they started cheering, I'm not condoning this by any way, but a fight broke out because any sort of representation of the other team is just not allowed in the stadium unless it's kind of in their section. And while I'm not saying that's a good thing, because I don't think that is a good thing, that's what the NFL UK games are lacking slightly with the atmosphere, is the kind of feel of opposition, and obviously you don't want it to be aggressive, but you want good competition.
Yeah, you want good competition, you want friendly rivalry, and it's such a burden on the home team to lose that advantage, to lose the advantage of the home crowd. And as I said, we didn't get to put everything that we spoke with Chris about into that bonus episode. And one thing that we discussed about was maybe moving a different game. And our wild theory, and I think it makes perfect sense, is why not, instead of having a regular season home game, why not bring the Super Bowl over to London? The Super Bowl is very, 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 very rarely in the city of one of the two playing teams.
I don't think has it ever happened?
I think it's happened once.
Okay.
Oh no, because it nearly happened with Minnesota.
Vikings.
Yeah. And anyway, so the fans are going to have to travel anyway. In terms of traveling to, let's say the 49ers make it to Miami this year, traveling from San Francisco to Miami or traveling San Francisco to London is comparable. Some would even say it's easier and there's more connections to get to London. So fans are going to have to travel either way. You could still do allocation of tickets in the same way. Most of them go to corporate sponsors anyway. So it's the sort of game that already has a sort of neutral feel to it. And we were discussing just now, in exchange, you could have the Champions League final over in New York or somewhere. Because, again, that is a game that people are going to have to travel to regardless. But this would give local fans the chance to see a really great game, although the Super Bowl is not always the best game.
But it's more about the support. It's more about the drive behind it and the excitement and the proper atmosphere.
Regardless of who's playing, because, we all watch the Super Bowl every year, and we all root for a team regardless of who's playing, because it's the Super Bowl. So, if it's someone in the Patriots, you're just like, I don't want the Patriots to win another one, and you really get behind the other team. Or if your rival's in there and you're rooting against them, or maybe it's just you're rooting for the NFC team and not the AFC team, but there's real passion that you can get behind in that game, so you wouldn't get the same neutral feel as you got at these Wembley games.
Yeah, I know. I was talking about this yesterday, and someone said to me, but the American fans would go insane. Imagine sending the FA Cup final over to America. But with something like the Champions League final, not to get sidetracked too much, but for example, last year, the Europa League final was in Baku, which takes 5 hours to fly to, I think possibly longer. There were no direct flights there, impossible to get to, bad fan base existing there already for the teams that were there, considering they were both from London. So teams have to travel for this stuff, and fans have to travel for this stuff. If you're telling me that a fan for a Champions League final would rather go to Baku than they would to New York, then you're being ridiculous. And with the Super Bowl, American fans that would be complaining about it, saying, oh, this is utterly ridiculous, taking it out of America, they wouldn't be the ones that would be travelling to the Super Bowl anyway. The ones that would be travelling to the Super Bowl would be more than happy to go to London, would love to go to London. I'm almost sure of it. And I really think that would be a proper test of whether the UK would work with an NFL franchise. Because I do feel like they are testing us more than any other market that they normally do. You don't see them kind of, with the Raiders, testing out Vegas. And if there would be one, like, if you could find a more soulless place to put a team, then you'd be looking pretty hard. And they've just sent them to Vegas, and I do think that the fan support in the UK would be more passionate. There are a lot of logistical things around it, but I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens in the future. There's a lot of talk about it, but all we can do now is sit back and wait.
And it's going to be a long wait, because that's now the end of the London series.
Yes.
And also with the end of the London series, we saw the end of my guy, Mr. Cashewnutter, Gardner Minshew. No,
do this every time.
The team is the Cashewnutters. I know, but
honestly.
Anyway, he's gone. And
are you alright? How are you holding up?
I'm okay. I'm okay with this because, first of all, a 6th round pick, he should never have been playing this many games and been the big name on the team. So now he gets an opportunity to do what they would have hoped with making that original pick, which is for him to sit behind Foles, to learn from Foles, to be a little bit out of the limelight, although he's already gotten a bit of glamour, and I think that's going to work for him and be great for him. They now know that they've got a 6th round pick that they can actually build around. I think we may well see him get the starter position next year even. But now he gets to sit back, relax. He had his games. He had a bit of glory and some tough hits. And he gets to learn from a pro. He gets to spend more time learning the playbook and getting ready. And then next season, we'll see him come out, I think, better and stronger. There will be a lot of hype around him because of what he did. But I think he will be prepared for that. And he now basically gets some time to work towards the goal of next season, which I'm really happy about.
I'm not a big advocate of benching players that you want to play in the future, and I know a lot of people are, but I think he's been in there long enough. The best way to learn, as my experience being an NFL quarterback, is to play the game. You're going to learn best by just being out there and doing it, and I just think it's a waste of time.
No, but the problem is, if he loses another game, they've got Foles, they've spent so much money on Foles that everyone would start going, oh, bring back in Foles, and then he's got suddenly that negative thing. Whereas, if they bench him now and they say, you know what, Gardner, thank you so much, you did so much for us, you kept us in it, you brought a lot of love of the game back to the city, now take the bench. Next season, we're getting rid of Foles. You're going to be our guy, and there won't be that person behind you that people are saying, "Oh, you got to bench him. You got to bring on the next guy."
But would they? I mean, if it was the other way around, yes, because you always want the exciting young rookie. But I feel like people have a lot more in all sports. People have a lot more patience for the young guy starting out, who they know is going to be their quarterback of the future. They're going to allow him more mistakes. They're going to get behind him in a way that they might not necessarily with Foles. Because if you think about it now, if Foles has 2 bad games, people are going to be getting psyched for Minshew mania again. They're going to want that long hair coming back out. And I think that the aggro that they get for starting Minshew and him not playing so well would be far less than the aggro that they get if Foles doesn't play well. And then you've got a kind of up in the air quarterback situation where what if they do go deep and start making the playoffs, and then you're kind of like, oh, Foles has been a bit rocky, who are we going to start in the playoffs to give us the best chance? And then it's also up in the air that you don't have consistency. I just think they should just go for it and start him. But talking about another quarterback situation, there is a really, really interesting one actually, is that Cam Newton has been placed on IR and now won't play again for the season. The question is, will he ever play for the Panthers again? What do you think?
Well, I don't think so. He's got 1 year left on his contract. He's 30 years old, which, when you see Tom Brady, that's not old for a quarterback anymore. But the difference between him and a Tom Brady type quarterback is that Cam Newton gets hit a lot because of running and because he's been behind some dodgy O-lines in his time.
When his style of running as well is he wants
combative.
Every last yard.
Exactly.
He doesn't slide. He will just go for it.
So he's been hit 1,235 times since 2011. That is the most of any quarterback in that time. That is a lot of hits.
Maybe he's just like craving human affection and just wants to be touched and held.
Maybe you just figured it out. Well, the Panthers would save $19 million on their salary cap. He's got a big contract. He'd probably want to renegotiate it because now it's looking like a sort of dodgy situation there. Listen, I'm not a big Kyle Allen fan. You see what he was like against the 49ers. He's been turning over, or rather, very sloppy with the ball, particularly with the fumbles that he's been lucky enough to recapture quite a lot of them. But I don't necessarily think that Kyle Allen is that great a quarterback. He's what they have at the moment, and they're going to have to go with that and do some self-scouting going into the offseason and make their decisions. But I do think that there's a very high possibility that Newton will be available next season, which
would be mad. It would be crazy. So stupid to do that.
But he gets injured so much.
I know, but he's incredible. And what I do think out of all of this is I am actually glad that he's gone on IR for the rest of the season because I really like Cam and I love seeing Cam play well. And I think that this will at least just give him a full chance to get 100% healthy because he came into this season and he wasn't and he got injured again. I don't think he's actually just had that time to sit out, get better and come back 100%. He's always carrying something. And I get that, coaches have to keep their jobs. Teams want to keep winning. So they want to keep putting him in to kind of push everything forward. But now he's gone, he's out, and he's just got time to sit back, relax and feel a little bit better.
I put it to you. Do you pay Cam what you're going to have to pay him, or do you save that money and give it to Christian McCaffrey?
Oh, interesting. I just don't think you should. I know Christian McCaffrey is incredible, but time and time again we've been showed don't pay running backs.
True. Look at the 49ers.
But moving on from Panthers to Cats, of course, in the Giants-Cowboys game, there was a little surprise visitor. And at the moment, true crime podcast and all that sort of thing, these serial podcast, one is called serial, I think, podcasts are very popular at the moment. And I want to do some detective work of my own. Because some of you may remember, I think earlier this year, maybe in January, a certain black cat invaded Goodison Park during an Everton game. And suspiciously, what almost certainly seemed to be the same black cat was strolling around in New York. What's going on here, folks? Do we need to dig deeper? I'll be talking about it next week on my new podcast, Feline Mysteries. Dun dun dun.
Well, that's going to be a riveting listen. Let's move on and talk about my favorite thing of the week. The Pats are no longer undefeated.
Yeah! No, we love all teams equally.
Except the Pats.
Peace and love. I don't think they even care anymore.
No, I mean they're still going to stroll to the Super Bowl, so that's fine.
Their season isn't the regular season like everyone else's. They play in January, and that's their season.
Yeah, exactly.
Done on how they do.
But that defense was shown to have some cracks against the multiple-sided offense of the Ravens,
which I did call.
Which you did call, and you made a very specific terrible prediction of the week.
Yes.
Which was that the Ravens would win by 20 points.
Yes.
And they won by 17.
Yes. Well, I think you've got to give that to me because the sentiment was there that they were going to win big. I'd said the Pats wouldn't be able to deal with a team that could do two things well. That was proven. If the Ravens punt returner, don't know his name because we never know names on this podcast, hadn't coughed it up straight to the Patriots, then that game would have been over midway through the second quarter. And again, there was another fumble. Was it Gus Edwards or was it Ingram?
It was Ingram, the second fumble, yeah.
Fumbled. And so the only reason the Patriots scored any points significantly in that game was because they had great field position. Their offense looks rubbish. Brady has turned into a quarterback where it's all about just being efficient now, and he does his job very well. But I think it will start to catch up with them a little bit in terms of going into the playoffs. They'll definitely make the playoffs, but going into the playoffs, it will start catching them up a little bit. And I think you've got to give me at least a point for Will's terrible prediction of the week.
Well, you did say they would win by 2 touchdowns, so I will allow you the point because that was a brave call, and
Yes.
it was very close.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Now, last week you spoke to us about the Bears.
The Bears.
And I'm told that you still have much more to say.
Well, not much more to say. I don't want to kind of get on top of the Bears and... Well, no one would going to get on top of a bear. That would be bloody scary,
Terrifying.
wouldn't it? But I don't want to bash them too much. But I just have a problem with Matt Nagy. Because, again, all this blame is being put on Trubisky. And I'm not saying that he's a good quarterback. He makes a lot of mistakes. But if you're seriously telling me they went through a whole half of football and they had negative yards, that can't all be Trubisky's fault. There are other ways to get yardage and move the football, and Matt Nagy is not coming up with anything. Yes, Trubisky misses passes, but hey, scheme people who are even more open. And people are going, well, people are wide open. Not wide open enough. Do better, Nagy, and stop blaming everything on Mitch. Because, yes, he's not playing well, but, you could be doing your job better. But I also say, Bears fans, you could play about Mitch Trubisky. Try having Mason Rudolph as your quarterback.
Oh, here we go.
Good Lord. Watching the Colts game, I mean, they were unlucky and lucky to win. No, they would have been unlucky to lose because of the ridiculous pass interference call. Might have to go back to ref's corner another time for that. But utterly ridiculous pass interference call. But Mason Rudolph is so frustrating to watch as a quarterback. His awareness in the pocket is awful. He pump faked in his own end zone with 3 defenders around him and gave away a safety. Pump faked in his own end zone. Is he mad? And whenever he's in the pocket, he looks like he's doing the quick step. Can't set his feet. I'm really, really worried. He can't be the quarterback of the future. And the Steelers are, in all other departments, are rolling. They look fantastic. That defense is probably top 3. Maybe top 1. No, it won't go that far. But, it's very frustrating at the moment to watch Rudolph. And I'm glad that you gave me a little bit of a chance to talk about the Steelers, but it was in a negative light, so it's fine.
So that's okay.
Yeah, and also maybe it's time for Vinatieri to hang up the kicking boots, because that was a bad miss. That was a really bad miss. And is he over? Do you think he's done? This will definitely be his last season. But
last season, I don't think they'll necessarily switch him out now, but last season.
Fair enough. But moving on to our predictions recap. Really exciting this week. Because we didn't do any.
Yeah, we forgot.
Yeah. I mean, we did Will's terrible prediction of the week, so it's great for me because I gain a point on you. But only 1 point up for grabs this week. And we'll try better next week.
Well, this week.
Yeah.
Let's try better right now.
Yeah.
Pick a game. Tell me prediction.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about the Raiders and the Chargers because it's a really interesting game because the Raiders are now 4-4 and somehow with 2 bizarre wins, the Chargers are now 4-5, which, having watched them play the Steelers 4 weeks ago, they looked useless, especially without Pouncey in that O-line. And with all this talk of moving to London and everything up in the air, well, they've
got a chip on their shoulder.
Downright demolished the Packers, didn't they? Everyone talking about the Packers being, the ones to watch. Well, clearly not. And this AFC wildcard race is becoming a bizarre one because there are a lot of terrible teams that have half-decent records in the AFC, probably because the AFC is rubbish this year. But yeah, the Chargers have come out of nowhere with wins against the Bears and Packers as well last week. And this game's really, really crucial. So with the way everything's been going, I think this mini run of the Chargers is going to come to an end because I think the last couple of results have been slightly strange. I don't know how much of it is based on the Chargers being amazing. I don't think they are. They have a lot of flaws. Gordon looked a lot better this week, which is great for them because he was looking quite poor ever since he came back. But I just can't see past the Raiders. I actually think that they are going to make the playoffs this year and be one of the wild card spots. Derek Carr's playing really, really well. And even against the Chargers defense that is pretty solid and a pretty great secondary, they just have a lot of injuries, a lot of issues, and I think I'm going to go for the Raiders.
Well, there we go. That's the first prediction.
And we're going to do something bold here, and I am going to open a box which I said I would close for slightly longer, but I'm going to let you talk about the 49ers.
Well, I feel like this you have to, because this is the biggest game. You know. This is the biggest game of the week. Yeah.
They're playing someone difficult. Wow.
I mean, you said the same thing with the Rams. You said the same thing with the Panthers. So come on. The 8-0 49ers go up against the 7-2 Seahawks for what is surely, well, we have to play them twice, but what is surely the biggest indicator in who is going to win that division. These are two teams which I think we can comfortably say will be making it to the postseason. So there's a lot to play for here.
We're learning a bit about playoff pedigree now. We're going to see what the 49ers are all about.
Yeah, and we saw, and I've said on this podcast before, Russell Wilson looking very impressive. He looked incredibly impressive against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a shootout. A great game to watch if you want to go back and pick a game. He threw 5 touchdowns in that game.
And no interceptions. So he's now the 7th quarterback to ever throw more than 3 or more games with 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. So he's balling at that moment.
Ooh, didn't know that stat. I love a good stat.
Yeah.
But Tampa Bay are sneaky good against the run, but are not a great defense. Similarly, they're not a fantastic offense. They've been balling out in a few games.
They're really mistake prone.
They're middle of the pack, but they're very mistake prone. So, and we see it throughout the season. The Seahawks have been winning a lot of games really close, down to the wire. And then when they come up against a good team like the Saints or the Ravens, they can't get away with the poor play that they do, particularly on the defense.
I think it's good pass rush that really upsets them.
Well, I'm gonna get to their offense in a second, but on the defense, they can't. They're not good enough to stop a good team, and we saw this past week. The 49ers were on a short week. They went into Arizona, which is always a trap game for them. For some reason, Arizona has something on Kyle Shanahan that he always struggles against them. But finally, he got his win against them. But the 49ers really showed us in that game, and Jimmy Garoppolo really showed us in that game, that they are a force to be reckoned with on the offense. If needed, they can ball out. They can put points on the board. They can make game-winning drives. So I am now far more confident in the offense of this 49ers. The defense didn't play so well on the short week, but I think that there were certain factors for that. I mean, part of it was Kenyon Drake had literally been there for 3 days. They didn't have any tape on him. They didn't really know what was going to be going on there. I think they were also feeling themselves a bit and got a little cocky. And
Cardinals are different from anything they've seen before. The Cardinals are a weird team to play this year. Because Kyler Murray's kind of very different.
Very different. But now they've got 11 days to prepare because they had the early game last week. They've got the late game this week. So they've got plenty of time. And I think the more time you've got, the better your defense plays against a team. And I think that this 4-man rush that the 49ers do, because they've been, I think they're the second on the sack leaderboard with a game in hand. The second on the sack leaderboard, yet they bring the lowest percentage of blitzes. They use a 4-man rush. And that is exactly what you need against someone like Russell Wilson, because you are not committing too many people to the line, and you can get good coverage in the backs, which means that when he's squirreling away, looking for an opportunity, extending plays, those extensions don't really help him because we've got so much presence back there. Yes, we've got Quan Alexander, who tore his pectoral muscle. He's going to be a big loss. But at the same time, we are getting so many players back this week. We are getting Kyle Juszczyk back. We are getting Mike McGlinchey back. It looks like we're going to get Joe Staley back. So our offense is going to take a huge step forward with 3 really big names joining it. I think the defense is going to take a step forward by having more time to prepare and having a little, shock to their system, which will give them an awakening. So I, of course, am going to pick the San Francisco 49ers in this game.
Bold. Very bold. I think it's one of those games where this is going to sound so blatantly obvious, but it's true. It's how both quarterbacks deal with pass rush. I've said before, Jimmy G is prone to a mistake, and I think that we'll find out a lot about Jimmy G in this game. And obviously Russell Wilson is very difficult to take down, so we'll see how the 49ers deal with wiggling around with Russell, having a wiggle. But moving on to a segment that upsets me more and more each week, excuse me, is a team of the podcast. Mm-hmm. And my bold prediction that perhaps my boldest prediction of all, that the Jets were going to win the division, well, it just looks frankly ridiculous now, doesn't it? They are just awful, and there's only one person that's responsible for that, and that man is Adam Gase. People are talking about one-and-done candidates. Well, I'm sorry, but this shouldn't even be a one-and-done candidate. It should be a half-and-done candidate. Get rid of him. What did he say about losing the game? He said he doesn't care, or you can't be embarrassed by losing games. It's the NFL, or he said something along the lines of he doesn't really care that they lost the game. He's lost the plot. He's completely lost the plot. He shouldn't be head coaching in the NFL ever again. He doesn't know what he's doing. And flipping over to the other side, the Dolphins, what on earth are they doing? They lost the one game of the season that they need to win. No, sorry, they won the one game of the season that they needed to lose, because losing for the Dolphins this year is winning. To a division rival, they've now gone ahead of them due to a head-to-head record, and you could find themselves in a position where the Jets are drafting in front of them. And hey, why don't the Jets just draft one of the quarterbacks that the Dolphins want and trade them away? It'd be hilarious. Or draft a quarterback, Tua or Herbert, and then just say to the Dolphins, "Oh, you can have Darnold." Ridiculous. So the Dolphins can't even tank properly, and the Jets have got Adam Gase. So
yeah, currently the Dolphins would get the 5th pick instead of the first.
Yeah, so Bengals and Redskins are ahead of them, so they're not getting one of the top 2 quarterbacks that they want. So they've traded everyone away, and they're in deep trouble. I know they play the Jets again, and they probably won't win another game this season, but who's to say the Bengals are going to win 2 games, and who's to say the Redskins are going to win another game this season? So
meanwhile, my team of the podcast are still doing sneaky good. They were struggling for a little bit, but now they got another win under their belt, albeit against those Redskins. The team in Washington. And they made it a lot more difficult than it had to be. It stayed a one-score game for quite a while. The final score, 24-9, was, I think, more flattering than the performance necessarily deserved. However, there were flashes of really good moments within that game. And now they go on to play the Browns, who were beaten by Denver. So the Browns, also looking like a very rocky team. I'm very excited about the Buffalo Bills, and I think that they can keep going. They can keep this streak or this winning record alive. Unfortunately, because of the division that they're in, they of course have the Patriots again to play towards the end of the season. Well, at this rate, they could. They're only one loss behind. But yeah, they've got the Browns, then the Dolphins, then the Broncos, then they've got Cowboys, Ravens, Steelers, Patriots, and then the Jets again. But
that's a tough little run.
I think my team of the podcast are going to make it into the postseason this year.
I'd say out of all the teams that are up there, they're probably the ones that are flattering to deceive the most. I think that record is perhaps not reflective of what they are as a team. I don't think if they did, they will make the playoffs. Surely going to be the first AFC wild card, or maybe they will win the division. But at the moment, they're not showing me enough that I would think, yeah, they can go far in the playoffs. Just not feeling it. I don't know.
I don't know how far they'll go, but they'll be there, and therefore I will win the paper crown and scepter or whatever it is.
Wasn't that for the predictions?
I can't remember.
Don't you win like a cardboard cloak or something?
No, I think it's a crisp £5 note. Which
you have to donate it to the charity of your... No, you have to put a bet on.
A bet on the final and then donate.
Well, oh my God, it all got convoluted.
Callbacks, people, callbacks.
Yeah, go back and listen to episode 2 or 3 when we were young and hopeful and full of dreams and had voices that didn't sound like they had gravel in their throats. But hey-ho. Moving on to Fancy Corner just after this.
Hey listeners, we've got a prize draw. We've teamed up with UK American Sports Store. This is a company that has tons of American sports gear here in the UK ready for immediate dispatch. And if you go over to our Twitter, @AcrossNFL, you will see our prize giveaway where you follow us, follow them, give us a little retweet, tag your friend, and you could win 2 New Era hats. So tag whoever you want to share that prize with, and we'll see you over there on Twitter. Thanks. Now, let's move into Fantasy Corner.
I had a heartbreaking loss this week. I actually did quite well, considering. I play in 4 leagues and I won 3 of my matchups, but I lost 1 in my paid league by 0.8. If you have any more heartbreaking loss than that, then hit us up on Twitter and show us, because I don't see how it can be worse than that.
Because that's the only way you recover, through Schadenfreude.
Exactly. I want to dwell in all of your misery.
But this is an interesting week because it's got the most buys of any week. There are 6 teams on a buy. So
if you were clever like me and planned for it, you should be fine.
And if you're not as clever as me and didn't plan for it, you should still be okay, because you listened to my advice and you got Kenyon Drake, who got you 26 points last week.
Yeah, but he's not going to save you your season. Do you know what I mean?
No, but he's a good addition. I've also got Jalen Samuels, who's a very good addition for Pittsburgh.
Connor's back this week, so maybe not. But...
Well, is he?
Yeah, he'll be fine.
We'll see. But this is the time of year when you want to start picking up backups, because if anyone, your team after this week should be set. But if anyone goes down from here on out and you have the backup, suddenly you go from having a running back 2 or 3, and then you've got a running back 1 on your team. And this is when you need to be stockpiling a few people. Get rid of those players on your team that you've been sort of hanging on to, thinking, oh, maybe if this, maybe if that, but they haven't been working out for you. And get yourself a nifty backup there who could have future potential.
Or pick up Balaj or whatever they call him, because Walton went down this week. Not went down, got banned for substance abuse. And, the Dolphins have to run someone, and you're going to get some points. So pick him up. Yeah,
that's a good piece of advice there. Just in terms of our little league, the Brit Bowl, a certain Mr. Me is now second place. Out and out second place there, after having taken down the number 1 ranked team. So this is going to be a hot segment going forward.
And if you're like me and have a Le'Veon Bell in your team, which is quite frustrating because there's lots of buys this week, maybe pick up Ty Montgomery. But as I say, I shouldn't be giving fantasy advice ever because it's irresponsible.
Whereas I should, because I am on a 4-game winning streak. So listen to what I say and you will win.
Unlikely. You were just talking about tanking this morning for a better draft pick next year.
Well, what happens between our personal chats should stay personal. Thank you.
Listeners, it's been lovely. It's been wonderful. It's been magical.
It's been emotional.
I'm going to go and have a lemon sip now, and hopefully next week I don't sound like Barry White.
Lemsip, if you want to sponsor us, we could really use that. Goodbye.
Bye.